In the heart of New York City, where glass towers pierced the clouds and ambition pulsed through every street, Victor Langston lived a life most could only dream of. At 42, he was a billionaire, his name synonymous with tech innovation and ruthless efficiency. His company, Langston Dynamics, had revolutionized artificial intelligence, and his penthouse atop the Apex Tower overlooked a city that bowed to his success. Yet, beneath the tailored suits and steely demeanor, Victor harbored a secret that shaped his solitary existence. He believed he was sterile, a fact confirmed by doctors in his 20s after a childhood illness. It was a quiet ache he'd buried under work, wealth, and a carefully curated isolation. He'd convinced himself he didn't need family. His legacy would be his empire. It was a crisp October morning when the first crack appeared in Victor's meticulously ordered world. He sat in his office, a minimalist fortress of glass and steel, reviewing quarterly projections, when his assistant, Clara, burst in without knocking, a first in her decade of service. Her usually composed face was pale, her hands clutching a tablet. "Victor, you need to see this," she said, her voice trembling. She slid the tablet across his desk, a news article already open. The headline screamed, "Billionaire's secret children? 3 teens share uncanny resemblance to Victor Langston, *." Victor's stomach lurched. The article, from a reputable outlet, featured photos of 3 teenagers, 2 boys and a girl, standing side by side at a community event in Brooklyn. Their faces were hauntingly familiar, sharp jawlines, piercing green eyes, and a distinctive wave in their dark hair. They could have been his siblings, or his children. The article speculated wildly, citing anonymous sources claiming the teens, all around 16, were linked to Victor through a long-buried scandal. He pushed the tablet away, his pulse racing. "This is nonsense," he snapped. "I can't have children. You know that." Clara hesitated, then said softly, "They're at a charity event for foster kids. Maybe just look into it." Victor dismissed her with a wave, but the images lingered. He spent the day distracted, the faces of those teens burning into his mind. By evening, alone in his penthouse, he couldn't resist. He pulled up the article again, then dug deeper, scouring social media and public records. The teens, Elijah, Marcus, and Lila, were foster kids, raised in different homes but recently reunited at a Brooklyn community center. Their resemblance to him was undeniable, but it was their stories that gripped him. Elijah, the eldest, was a budding artist who painted murals for local businesses. Marcus, quiet and analytical, fixed computers for free at the center. Lila, the youngest, organized food drives with a fierceness that belied her age. They were kids who gave, despite having little. Victor's world tilted. He'd spent years building walls, convincing himself he didn't need connection. But these kids, strangers with his face, were out there pouring kindness into a world that hadn't been kind to them. He needed answers. Against his better judgment, he called his lawyer, Amelia, and instructed her to arrange a discreet meeting with the teen's caseworker. "No media," he warned. "I don't need a circus." Days later, Victor sat in a nondescript coffee shop in Brooklyn, his usual Armani suit traded for a hoodie and jeans. The caseworker, a no-nonsense woman named Ms. Rivera, slid into the booth across from him. "You're here about Elijah, Marcus, and Lila," she said, her eyes sharp. "I'll be blunt. Their mother, Sarah, died 10 years ago. She was a single mom, no family, and never named the father. The kids bounced around foster homes until they found each other at the community center. They're good kids, Mr. Langston. Too good for the hand they've been dealt." Victor's throat tightened. "And the resemblance?" he asked. Ms. Rivera leaned forward. "Sarah worked at your company in the early 2000s. A temp, data entry. She left suddenly, no explanation. I don't know what happened, but those kids look like you, and they were born 9 months after she left." Victor's mind reeled. He remembered Sarah vaguely, a quiet woman with kind eyes who'd worked in the cubicles of his startup's early days. He'd been young, driven, and briefly reckless, drowning in the chaos of building his empire. There had been a night, a fleeting moment at a company party, blurred by whiskey and ambition. Could it be? He shook his head. "I'm sterile," he said flatly. "It's impossible." Ms. Rivera raised an eyebrow. "Medical miracles happen. Or maybe your doctors were wrong. You want answers? Talk to the kids. But don't mess with their heads unless you're serious." Victor spent the next week in a haze, torn between denial and curiosity. He hired a private investigator to dig into Sarah's past, confirming she'd left Langston Dynamics abruptly in 2008, pregnant and alone. Medical records were inconclusive. His sterility diagnosis was based on old tests, never revisited. Doubt crept in. He could ignore it, let the story fade into tabloid obscurity. But those faces, their kindness, gnawed at him. He decided to meet them. The community center was a weathered brick building, alive with the noise of kids and volunteers. Victor, again in disguise, felt out of place among the folding chairs and faded posters. Elijah was there, painting a mural of a vibrant cityscape. Marcus sat in a corner, troubleshooting a laptop. Lila handed out flyers for a canned food drive. They didn't notice him, but Victor watched, heart pounding. Their mannerisms, Elijah's focused frown, Marcus's quiet intensity, Lila's quick smile, felt like echoes of himself. Ms. Rivera introduced him as Vic, a potential donor. The kids were polite but guarded. Elijah shook his hand, paint smudged on his fingers. "You here to help, or just look around?" he asked, his green eyes sharp. Victor mumbled something about supporting the center, but Lila cut in. "We need more than money. You got time to sort donations next week?" Her challenge caught him off guard. He nodded, surprising himself. Over the next month, Victor became a regular at the center, sorting cans, fixing shelves, and listening. He learned Elijah dreamed of art school, but couldn't afford it. Marcus taught himself coding from library books. Lila, fierce and protective, mothered everyone. They were a unit, bound by shared hardship and unspoken loyalty. Victor saw himself in their resilience, but also something he lacked, their selflessness. He'd built an empire for himself. They built hope for others. The investigator's report came back. Sarah had kept a journal, found in storage after her death. It detailed a brief, intense connection with VL, a man too consumed by ambition to notice her heart. She'd left when she learned she was pregnant, unwilling to burden him. Victor read the journal in his penthouse, tears blurring the pages. He wasn't sterile. Tests later confirmed it. A rare recovery, the doctor said. The truth hit like a tidal wave. These were his children. He could have walked away, but the kids' kindness had cracked something in him. He told Ms. Rivera he wanted to meet them as their father, but only if they were ready. She arranged a private meeting at the center. Victor stood in the empty gym, heart hammering, when the three walked in. They looked wary, clutching each other's hands. Ms. Rivera had prepared them, but the truth hung heavy. "I'm Victor Langston," he began, voice shaking. "I didn't know about you. I should have. Your mother. I wasn't there for her. Or you. I'm sorry." He expected anger, rejection. Instead, Lila stepped forward, eyes wet. "You're here now," she said. "That's something." The months that followed were messy, beautiful. Victor didn't swoop in with money or promises. He showed up. He helped Elijah apply for art scholarships, sat with Marcus debugging code, and sorted cans with Lila, listening to her dreams of social work. The media caught wind, but Victor shielded them, hiring lawyers to keep their lives private. He bought the community center a new building, but only after asking the kids what it needed. The emotional peak came on a quiet spring evening. The center hosted a mural unveiling, Elijah's work, a vibrant tribute to Brooklyn's spirit. Hundreds gathered, unaware of the billionaire in the back, eyes on his son. Elijah, Marcus, and Lila stood together, beaming. Victor approached, nervous. "I'm proud of you," he said, voice thick. "All of you." Marcus, usually stoic, hugged him first. Lila followed, then Elijah. The crowd didn't notice, but for Victor, it was the world shifting. Years later, Victor's penthouse was no longer silent. Photos of the kids lined the walls, Elijah at art school, Marcus launching a tech nonprofit, Lila leading community drives. He'd stepped back from Langston Dynamics, delegating to focus on what mattered. The billionaire who believed he was sterile had found his heart in 3 children who taught him that wealth wasn't power, kindness was. Their bond, forged in selflessness, proved humanity's greatest legacy, resonating far beyond the towers of New York.